This one caught my eye because in VES's frequently asked questions, it answers the questions of other people, like your spouse, attending your CMP exam, which is an extremely common question. And this is going to be straight from the horse's mouth here. I'm going to show you an exam request from VES on a PDF file. We're also going to look at what VES has to say about some other common questions that veterans ask all the time. Now, VES is one of the CMP exam contracting companies that I would assume these answers relate to all the other companies. Now, what we have here is the CNP exam request. Boom, bada bing, here it is. I went ahead and did my best to hide this veteran's PII, and we're going to scroll down here and you will find the frequently asked questions. Now, there are 3 or 4 we're going to really look into. The first one is looking at, can I attend an examination with a caregiver or chaperones? This be a spouse, whoever it is you want. And I'm just going to read this verbatim. I think this is extremely important to understand from VES's perspective. And so if you'd like a caregiver or family member to stay with you during the exam, you can request this when scheduling your appointment. Okay, so it's a request, not a guarantee. The provider may ask caregivers and family members to stay outside of the exam room. For sensitive physical exams, you can ask for a medical assistant or chaperone who works with the provider to stay in the room with you. All right. Service animals are permitted. If a service animal will be accompanying you, we ask that you advise VES prior to your exam to ensure your scheduled provider does not have any allergies. Sure. If you have children, you may want to plan for childcare during your exam. I brought my daughter to one of my exams, actually. This is because you and the provider may need to discuss sensitive topics related to your claim. So I don't like this answer. It's not very cut and dry, yes and no. And the answer here is you can request this when scheduling your appointment. So it means it might be granted, it might not be granted. But there you go. That is straight from this is an exam request by VES Veterans Evaluation Services. Now, what I also want to look at is traveling distance, because this is a interesting. We just saw the House of Veteran Affairs Committee talk about traveling distance for CMP exams, and let's just hear what VES has to say about it. So it's very important to remember that you are not being evaluated for the purpose of treatment. Under the rules and regulations of the VBA, that's important to understand, providers must be trained and approved through the VA before being allowed to perform CMP exams. All right, good news. Therefore, while the location of your exam or diagnostic appointment is determined by your address, the availability of recognized qualified examiners in your immediate area may necessitate scheduling you outside of your city of residence. Travel reimbursement will be provided per VA guidelines. Now, I don't think this question really gets at the 60 plus miles or the 168 plus mile type exams that we've seen. But I think it's interesting to come across this very shortly after the HVAC discussed and the VFW executive director discussed his travel distance going from Maryland to Delaware. Okay. Now this one is just funny to me. All right. I get a chuckle out of this. But it's not really that. I guess it's not a laughing matter, right? Why wasn't I scheduled on a day I said I was available? Can I reschedule my appointment? Isn't it wild that they will ask you when you're available and completely they will consider it, which means they don't schedule you on when you told them you were available. You can't make this up, dude. Please note that while we do our very best to accommodate your schedule, VES cannot guarantee the availability of your preferred timeframes. In order to meet VA requirements, VES may have to assign an alternative exam time. If you need to reschedule, please reach out to us as soon as possible. So a few issues here. At least in my personal opinion, I would argue that disability claim process should not impede the veteran shouldn't have to take off of work. They shouldn't have to do any of that. It should be a really flowy process. And if the veteran says, hey, I'm available Friday afternoon, then have the appointment Friday afternoon. Or if you can't, then you say, okay, well, when's the next time available, right? Availability. It's insane that they will request your availability and simply just not follow whenever you're available. Whatever. It's insane. Now, last one, do I need to attend this appointment? This part is a bit tricky, and I'm gonna mention it here, but not go too deep into it. Is there is a time and place that's technically correct. It's technically correct that if you have a fully developed claim and the VA schedules an unwarranted CMP exam, that you don't have to attend and they can adjudicate the claim as is. The issue with that is, how do you know your claim is truly fully developed? Just because you have a private independent medical opinion and a DBQ that was completed, it does not necessarily mean that claim is fully developed, because those have to be sufficient enough for that disability claim. And do I expect veterans to understand what sufficient means for their claim? No. And so that kind of leaves us at this place. Well, I had what I thought was a fully developed claim, but the VA scheduled a CMP exam. Should I go? I think the answer 99% of the time is going to be yes. In your very non-common cases, that answer could be no. But for the common veteran, I would say yes every time. Okay, as a participant in the VA CMP program, attending your exam or exams are a critical component of determining your eligibility for VA disability compensation and other benefits. If you should miss your scheduled exams and need to reschedule, or are unable or unwilling to attend in-person or tele CMP appointments, please notify VES. Your claim will not be canceled. However, your exam request will be sent to the VA for further review. Basically saying, hey, if you don't show up, we're going to let the VA do VA things. The last thing I want to point out here, and this one is what gets under my skin a little bit, but it happens so often. I really don't know the solution, because qualified CMP examiners aren't, they don't grow on trees. But here we have a nurse practitioner who has less than 1 year of CMP exam experience. And what's weird about that is this is a medical opinion. So you do the DBQ, which is the in-service event and the current diagnosis, and those become the foundation of the Nexus, or medical opinion. In my opinion, which is some dude in his basement, you should warrant a physician, right? Someone who went to med school, a doctor, a medical doctor, to give a medical opinion. I'm not a big fan of NP, CMP. I'm not a fan of any CMP examiner who did not go to med school. That would be a good way to say it. So that's, psychologists included. I want a psychiatrist. Now, that's my personal pet peeve, but food for thought. There you go.